Welcome to the RBN network. We're back, guys. We're back. The podcast with no name, sponsored by no one. But we're joined today by our illustrious guests. So, first, we're joined by Tony. Tony, give us a wave, my friend. We're joined by DZ. DZ, let them know you're here. We're joined by Matt. Matt is dialing in. As you can see from his picture, he's still quite young, so he's not able to show camera at this stage without consent. But Matt, if you give us some sound so we know you're here.
Yeah, what up, guys?
All right, cool. So yeah, he definitely looks older than he sounds. But anyway, look, guys, we're here to talk about the NBA. That's what we do, right? And we've got a number of topics we want to cover off today. The big one, the most important one, the one that I'm sure you've all been seeing over the internet, is the fact that Thomas Bryant signed a minimum deal with the Lakers. We'll also cover off some of the other deals, such as the Kevin Durant situation, which is something we need to address. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and him talking about wanting to leave that team is a big deal. We'll cover off Kyrie Irving and all the great things that he's done and all the things that are not so great and what potentially could be happening with him. We'll touch on the Lakers, what they're doing on a serious note in terms of what they can do to replace Westbrook and if they can get their hands on any new players. And then we'll finish up with a new segment called Love It or Hate It, where we'll do a little round robin with the guys. I'll mention something and I'd like them to tell me whether they love it or they hate it and why. So now you know why we're here. I will start with, again, on a serious note, the more important part of our discussion, Kevin Durant, aka the Slim Reaper. This guy is a two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP, one-time MVP, 10-time All NBA. And for those who don't watch the NBA religiously, All NBA means you are one of the best 10 or 15 players, and only 18 people have ever been the best top 15 players 10 times. For context, Jordan's only done it 11 times. Durant's done it 10. That should give you some indication as to how great this guy is. And he's part of the illustrious 40 50 90 club, which is an efficiency rating where a player shoots 40% from the field, or 40% from free, 50% from the field, and 90% from free throws. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I just want to give you guys context to let you know this guy is absolutely unbelievable. But we have some turmoil in paradise. And I'd like my guys, Tony, Deezy, and Matt, to talk a little bit about what's going on, what the current state of affairs are, and potentially where we could see some movement. So, Tony, could you kick us off with what you're seeing with Durant and what your thoughts are on the situation?
Actually, I'm still trying to comprehend what is happening because I thought I see his disgruntlement because he wanted his boy to get the bag. But now that Kyrie opted into his deal and he's staying with the Nets, I'm still a bit confused as to why he wants to leave. I thought he wanted to play with Kyrie. But with that being said, I'm trying to see where he would fit perfectly and where because there's fitting and then there's feasibility of a trade. For example, he would fit perfectly in Miami, but again, the trade details of that don't necessarily work. So, and again, looking at the trade market, Rudy Gobert just went for, he commanded a lot. So if Rudy Gobert can command that much, I'm trying to think how much KD can, actually can is any team is any team that's actually a contender, can they actually afford? Because if you look at the Suns, they're not taking just anyone. If KD is to go to the Suns, then they probably want Devin Booker. So again, is the Suns willing to let go of Devin Booker? Because again, you have to look at getting value back. KD is high value, and rightfully so. So again, which team has enough assets to entice the Brooklyn Nets and so that the Nets can get KD's worth? Because again, he's valuable and rightfully so. So I think there's very few teams that can actually. There's very few contending teams that can actually afford KD, because yes, there's 30 teams surely. Two teams can come and put a package using a third team, but again, he's a superstar, so he has some say into where he ends up. So it's very very tricky, and honestly, I can't pinpoint and say he is most likely to end up at the with with a certain team. But I'm just here for the drama, because right now it's more of a soap opera than anything else.
We're all
Because
here for the drama, Tony. We're all here for the drama. That's why we're here, my friend. Look, Tony
yeah,
makes an interesting point, DZ, about why KD's made this decision. And it sounds like Tony's view is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, that he's made that decision because the Nets didn't commit to Kyrie long term. DZ, is that something that you think hasn't necessarily happened? And if it is, why do you think this chain of events has led to this?
All right. So Kevin Durant, he's an interesting guy. People say the reason why he hasn't committed is because of Kyrie Irving. I think that's partly the reason, but I think another reason is he knows that the Nets can't win a title, and I think he's also a little bit embarrassed about what Boston did to him and his team because he got swept. And then to go on and to watch the Celtics, the same team that beat him, get beat by his former team, the Golden State Warriors, who beat them 3 games in a row. I think all of those things put together, if you look at when he left Oklahoma City, he left OKC because he lost to the Warriors. They had a 3-1 lead, and they blew that lead. And then he realized, we can't beat this team. So Kevin Durant, he's an all-time great player, top 15, top 20 player. But he seems to like the path of least resistance in that he wants the deck to be really stacked, like super stacked. I mean, if you look at his 2 championships, he won them with Golden State and a pretty much unbeatable team. In Brooklyn, there's a chance to actually take a team from, not scratch, but take a team from a decent level to a champion, and he's failed to do it. And I think that's going to hurt his overall legacy. And I think the reason why he wants to leave the Brooklyn Nets ultimately because Kyrie's staying next year. He said because KD announced that he's leaving the day after Kyrie announced that he's staying. I think the reason why he wants to go is I think he realizes the Brooklyn Nets don't have the team to go on and win a championship. And so I think that's why he's leaving, because he wants to go to a team that's, if you look at the 2 teams he's named, are the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. Both of whom have been to the NBA Finals twice in the last 3 years. So he's picking the elite teams in the NBA, so KD doesn't want to just leave just to leave. He's leaving because he wants to go to a better, just to give him a better chance to win a title. And I think, so for me, KD, he's, this really hurts him in a major way. I think and people are going to look back at this moment in his career, and when he joined Golden State, is look at these are moments that are going to take him out of the top 10, the top 5 conversation, maybe forever, because he seems to like the path of least resistance. And finally, I'll add, if you look at what Kawhi Leonard did when he went to Toronto, took a team that was a good team, and he went all the way. Didn't complain, just went and he's got it done. No questions asked. And I think KD hasn't done that. So I think he's feeling the pressure because he's seen his old team win 2 titles without him, while he's felt to win 1 without them. So I think he's picking the path of least resistance, and I think it's actually a weak move personally, but that's my opinion.
Okay, so I want to touch on one of your comments, which I think is very interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of KD fans out there that might push back on this. So you mentioned that you think he's chosen the path of least resistance, and that's consistent with his career, but he was on a team that had won 2 championships and got to the finals, and he decided to go to a team that had no track record. Doesn't that indicate that he's not choosing the path of least resistance, and he's just choosing a path that best fits what he wants to do? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, according to people who are on the Warriors or around the Warriors, reporters were reporting on the team. They said the reason why KD left Golden State was because he wasn't getting the credit that he felt that he deserved he was getting the love that he was getting from the fans, because there's always going to be Steph Curry's team. So I think that might have been more of an ego thing. And that even when he beat LeBron in those 2 finals, he thought that made him as good as anyone else in the world, as he said. But people didn't give him that credit because he was playing on a really stacked team. And I think, so when he joined the Warriors, I think he picked, because he joined the team that beat him. It's pretty much unprecedented in terms of NBA history. Like, he joined the team that basically he came back from 3-1 to knock him and his team out. And he went and he joined that team. He joined a 73-win team, a team that won a title 2 years before that, at least a year before that, basically. And he just went to the finals 2 years in a row. So that was the path of least resistance at the time. And I think this time, you can argue, leaving the Warriors did show that he wanted to go and start something else. But I think, people have compared Kevin Durant to LeBron James. And LeBron, everywhere he's been, he's left banners, or at least one. And Kevin Durant, he's leaving Brooklyn with pretty much just stats and numbers, basically. And I think by picking the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat, these are teams who've been to the mountaintop, just not quite gotten over the mountain, but these are 2 very capable teams. And I think if he'd pick, for example, say like I don't know, the New York Knicks or the Orlando Magic or the Chicago Bulls, or if he'd gone back to his hometown team or the Washington Wizards, and you think, okay, cool, then clearly this guy wants to start from scratch. But he's picking two teams that are already elite NBA teams, like they're elite. The Miami Heat are extremely well run. And the Phoenix Suns have got a really good team as well. We've got all-time player in Devin Booker and a great all-time point guard in Chris Paul. So he's picking the teams that are like already knocking on the door. And Katie's just saying, "Let me in." And I think for me personally, I don't know, you get no credit for that.
No credit taken, no credit given. My guy DZ. So Matt, talk to me. We've mentioned a lot about KD, the situation he's in now, where he's been before, the teams he could potentially or can't go to. What additional insight would you like to bring from your perspective in terms of what you're seeing regarding the KD situation?
Yeah, so just to kind of carry on from where DZ and Tony left off, I think it's clear to see that there aren't a lot of teams that actually have an adequate enough package to acquire KD. And interestingly enough, I actually think the Warriors have the best kind of package for him, because I think if you're the Nets, when you have a superstar like KD, what you want to do is you want to acquire sort of like a young kind of promising star as well as picks, so that you can kind of guarantee that your franchise wouldn't fall off completely now, but also that they can build sustainably for the future. So I think because of all the CBA regulations within the NBA, there's so many players that the Nets would want from other teams that they won't be able to acquire because of that. So I think the Warriors having that kind of young core of players with Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman, as well as some picks, I actually think that would probably be the best option for the Nets, because I know KD said that he wants to go to either the Heat or the Suns, but I don't think the decision makers of teams in the NBA are really that high on DeAndre Ayton as that kind of franchise player that can really kind of propel, franchises forward. So I do not think if Devin Booker or some sort can be included in a deal, I don't think the Nets will be interested. And just like Tony said, with the amount that Rudy Gobert commanded, I think it's very unlikely that the Nets would request anything short of that. And also, just to finish off, I actually think that he would end up staying. And the reason why I think that is because I'm looking at the coach, Steve Nash, sorry, and the Nets fired their previous head coach, Kenny Atkinson, because of KD and Kyrie. Essentially, they wanted in Steve Nash, and Steve Nash had never had a coaching job in his life prior to that, and yet KD and Kyrie demanded that he be the coach. And so I think if the Nets were really gonna just blow this whole thing up, let Kyrie get what he wants, let KD get what he wants, and just let them go, I don't believe that they would trust Steve Nash to be the spearhead of their rebuild. And so I believe they would actually get rid of him too. And there seems to be no talk of that thus far. So as it stands for me, I just don't think the trade packages on offer are good enough. And I haven't seen any sign that the Nets actually want to sort of like rebuild. So I don't think he's going anywhere.
Understood. And guys, I just want to add a little bit of my own take on this. We're talking about Kevin Durant. I need more excitement for you guys. This guy is one of the best players in the whole league. I see Tony sitting there with his face all just regular talking. DZ's just thinking about it. Matt's talking calm. Guys, it's Kevin Durant. 4-year deal. You know what? I'm going to private message you guys and we'll have a conversation. But this is for me, this is mind blowing. This is on that LeBron James legacy stuff. But anyway, we digress. On to the next point. Gentlemen, and this is more to you, Tony and DZ, because I can see you. By showing me how many fingers, this is a question about numbers. How many players in the league this year scored more points per game than Steph Curry and shot of 3-pointers better than him this year? So they scored more points per game and shot from the 3-point line better than Steph Curry. One. How many are you saying, Tony? One. Any guesses who that might be, DZ?
KD?
Tony, any guesses who that might be?
Yeah, I'm going with Dizzy on this one. KD.
Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie. So this is what, and I wanted to set the tone and I wanted to set the pace because we've just talked about one of the best players of all time, hands down, top 20, easy. And Kyrie Irving is not considered to be one of the top 20 players of all time. But last year, as much as he only played 29 games in the last few years, last year he scored a better free field goal percentage than Curry, better 3-point percentage than Curry, scored more points than Curry, and got a better player efficiency rating than Curry, which essentially measures a number of different things. And he's on an expiring contract, and nobody in the league other than one team, but nobody in the league other than one team wants to get hold of him. Tony, DZ, Matt, I'm baffled. DZ, I need you to tell me why a player with that level of caliber hasn't been picked up by anybody. And before you do that, don't tell me that KD is a player that scored more and got a better 3-point percentage, because I didn't check to see if he was one as well. Go ahead.
Okay, so my nickname for Kyrie Irving is Hurricane Kyrie, because everything he touches, he seems to blow up. If you look at what happened when he was in Cleveland, the team was going to the finals every year. They won the championship, and he asked out. Some people seem to don't like prosperity. You know, Kyrie is almost like a girl that just needs to always be mad at something. You know, she needs to be upset about something. Otherwise, just something's, you know, she just can't just be. You know, like, so Kyrie, if in Cleveland, had a great situation, played an all-time great player, and he asked out. Went to Boston, great young team, tried to throw his weight around and said, listen, nah, bro, like, that's not going to run over here. He asked out. Went to Brooklyn. He's played 103 games in 3 years. That's one game less than Kevon Looney on the Warriors played this year on his own. So I think Kyrie is a great shooter, all-time great dribbler, you know, but my thing is, he's not reliable. And I think, you know, there's an expression in law, they call it caveat emptor, which basically means buyer beware. So if all teams are looking at Kyrie and thinking, hold on, he's a great player, but it's like before you buy a house, you got to do checks in the house. You got to see if there's any money owed, if there's any loans in the house, if there's any charges on the house. And teams have looked at Kyrie and they're like, nah, they've done a credit check. And they've just said, no, bro, like, it's not worth the hassle. And I think Kyrie's got all the skills. I think it's just his mentality that I think is scaring teams off, which is a shame because he's still in his prime. He's 29, 30 years old, you know. But I think, yeah, even this year he had a really good year when he played. But the key thing is when he played. You know, the best form of ability is availability. And if he's playing 29 games in the regular season, you know, 4 games in the playoffs, that's, you know, and you're going to give this guy a max contract. So basically, about 25% of your cap, and you can't rely on him to be there. And I think that's what a lot of teams are looking at. They're like, nah, I figured he might not be worth the hassle, which is a shame. So I think with Kyrie, he just seems to be, Hurricane Kyrie. Wherever he goes, he blows stuff up. And if he moves again this year, I think this will be his 4th team in 5-6 years. So at a certain point, you start seeing a trend. And if you look at the common denominator, Cleveland, Boston, Brooklyn, it's Kyrie. And if you look at after he left Cleveland, they went to the finals. He left the Celtics 2 years later. They go to the finals. So he's leaving good teams behind. It just doesn't. So I think the key thing is Kyrie's mentality, which is a shame. Nothing to do with skills. This is actual mindset, which is what's scaring teams off. So, yeah, that's my perspective.
And that's very insightful, Deez. I've got a question for you, though. Are you available at the moment to play in the NBA? If they called you up, would you play?
I could probably give someone 5-10 minutes off the bench.
I'm sure you could, but you ain't in the NBA, right? So don't tell me the best ability is availability. Ain't no availability out here that's going to get you to the NBA. You need to be good. About the best abilities available. It's dead, that talk. But listen, one thing I want you to repeat, though, if you don't mind. What was that phrase, that legal phrase you used that means buyer beware? Remind me.
Yeah, it's caveat emptor, which basically means buyer beware. So before you purchase a company, stocks, a house, or anything, you've got to do your research, because once you buy that property, everything that's it's basically like the liability falls on you. And teams are looking at Kyrie and they think, hold on, even if we sign this guy, we know what we're kind of buying into. A guy who believes that the earth is flat, who's got all kinds of theories about all kinds of things. He says basketball's the most important thing. And if you're going to pay a guy $200 million, so 250, $250 million, and he's saying my job isn't the most important thing to me, you know, you naturally people are going to think, you know what, actually, should we really risk doing this? You know, I mean, if he's because I mean, Kyrie acted the way that he acted this year, with basically a year left on his deal. So if you give Kyrie a 4-year deal, and you know he's got all that security, he might just decide, you know what?
Buyer beware. Buyer beware. You know what? The next time someone asks me for relationship advice, I'm going to give that phrase to them. Buyer beware. I like that one. Matt, talk to me. DZ's been talking ad nauseum about how Kyrie is a risk, a problem child, a hurricane. And buyer beware is even dropping Latin out here. Talk to me about the upside of Kyrie. What can he bring to your team from a positive point of view?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I do think gets overlooked when it comes to Kyrie is the fact that he's actually not declining as much as his kind of availability may decline. His actual game and the numbers he's been able to put up over the last couple of seasons when he has played is actually improving. So, you know, his skill set would obviously be very useful to a lot of teams. I think the Lakers, due to the fact that they have Russell Westbrook and is very evident that the project just hasn't worked, they are willing to kind of bet on the fact that the LeBron-Kyrie combination has worked previously in the past. And so they would happily take him at this point because the Westbrook situation has failed miserably. So I think that's why the Lakers would happily take him. And also just because of the fact that he can create his own shot, he can play off the ball in terms of he can spot up and shoot. I mean, he can catch and shoot. So he can also play off the ball when LeBron is running point. And also in cases where LeBron goes to the bench, he can run the floor. So I think that's why the Lakers see him as a potential kind of last piece of the puzzle they currently have to possibly contend for a championship.
So thanks, Matt. And to your point, Kyrie on the Lakers. Just a year ago, remember, guys, we said that a team with James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving was a super team. This year, we have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and potentially Kyrie Irving, who's even better than he was a couple of years ago. Now, if we say LeBron and KD are a wash, we say AD's probably better than James Harden, and Kyrie's better than he was. Why are we not saying that Kyrie going to the Lakers is potentially a super team? Tony, tell me why you think people are so low on Kyrie to the Lakers and it's not considered to be an earth-shattering move in regards to what it could potentially mean for the NBA.
That's a very complex question. So first of all, I'll try and channel in my inner Stephen A. Smith.
You do that, my friend. You do that.
Just to be a bit dramatic. But first of all, unpopular opinion. This is my personal opinion. Kyrie Irving is not a number one on your team if you're a contender. And this is because, first of all, he got the chance to be that guy. You know that guy, the number one option on your team when he was in Boston. He could not get it done. And he had a very good call. He had, essentially the whole team that made it to the finals with Kyrie, and he couldn't get it done. He had that chance, so he couldn't get it done. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, again, DZ has gone and said it all. This literally, the common denominator in the Cavs, the Boston, and the Nets is Kyrie. So clearly, Kyrie is the problem. And the other thing is, yes, he had a better points per game and efficiency when you compare him to, let's say, Steph. But also, remember, Steph played 64 games. He played, less than a third of the season? So it's not really a fair comparison, because in the same sense, I can say, again, John Wall has over the last season he played, he averaged what 20 points per game. But he's not a top point guard. It's just, again, we have to put these numbers in context for them to actually carry the way that they're supposed to mean. And in all honesty, I think the Lakers are the only team that can afford to take a Kyrie risk because they're in a win now situation. They literally have they have no eggs left in the proverbial basket. They've spent everything they had in getting AD, LeBron, and Westbrook. So literally, it's they're the only team that can afford to deal with that drama. Again, they're the Lakers. I don't know whether it's because of their location, where that's where all the drama happens in Hollywood. I don't know, but they're the only team that can afford to take that risk of Kyrie Irving. He is a very good player. Do not get me wrong. He is top of his game. He is a good player, but again, like Dizzy said, buyer beware. He comes in with a lot of baggage. And the one thing that gets me personally is his lack of accountability, because you have to look at, first of all, he's very injury prone. In the Cavs, he missed out. In Boston, he missed out sometimes. So again, in the Nets, he's missed out. So he's injury prone. He's right there with AD. You sneeze at him wrong, he's out with an injury. So that's the first thing. And again, because of his own personal issues as well, at the beginning of the pandemic, even before the COVID mandate was a thing, he took some time off. Even you at your job, you just don't walk away and say, I need time off from the office. Bruh, there has to be accountability. Because for me, literally, this was the time to prove himself. He would have opted if I were Kyrie, I'm not. But if I were in that same situation, I would want to prove myself. I would opt in just as is, play this season, and earn my money. Prove that I'm actually worth that quarter $1 billion, such that literally I would want to increase my own stock. Because right now, if I have Kyrie stock, I'm selling. If I have Kyrie stock, I am selling. So again, he's not as worth. I think he's not as worth as he thinks he is. He is a good player, but he's not worth what he thinks he's worth.
Tony. Oh, mate, you came in firing, bro. First you drew for my analogy comparing Kyrie to Steph, and then brought in John Wall, who hasn't played for 2 years, just to make that analogy look terrible. That was masterful. Second time you've been on the show and you're already making me look like an idiot. I love it. But the passion, it's the passion you're talking about, the accountability, being there, injury prone, not elevating teams, not being present, taking time off, not being, all those things are completely true. Absolutely true. And the fact is, like you said, the Lakers don't have a choice. My view is it's a high risk, high reward situation. If they get Kyrie and they can even remotely replicate the Kyrie that was there with LeBron in terms of ability and availability, and this time, DZ, I will say availability is the best ability for this guy because we know he's good. If they can replicate that, what I can definitely see is they'll do better than they did last year, but they finished 11th last year, so it's not like they're setting the bar high. Guys, this is the kind of passion I need, right? Come at me, come at each other, fight each other. It was subtle though, Tony. It wasn't direct, but it was nice. It was nice. So we've talked about KD, we've talked about Kyrie, we've talked about the Lakers. We've I say passive aggressively come at me, which is nice. I like I say. Now it's time to go round the clock on love it or hate it. Gents, it's a new format, so we're going to have to play it by ear on this one. But I will say, I'll start with this. And I'll start with you, Tony, and I'll go to you, Matt, after. You mentioned the Rudy Gobert deal, a significant deal. You know, they got 3 unprotected picks, a protected pick, 2 players who were draft picks, 3 players who were active players. Do you love it or do you hate it? Tell me why. Make it snappy. Tell me why.
I hate it. First of all,
tell me why you hate it.
First of all, they overpaid. And I feel like they just shot themselves in the foot. For a team that was on an upward trajectory, they literally just they've shot themselves in the foot. Because again, first of all, they've overpaid, which puts a massive dent. I think right now they don't have any, they literally don't have any cap space unless they trade some of their key pieces. And as per their current roster, the only person they can move, in my opinion, is D'Angelo Russell. Even before the trade, even before the end of the season, I was like, they probably need to move that guy. So they already have a big man in Cat. Cat is good. Cat can shoot 3 points. Cat can, so they had a decent big man. And again, you also have to keep up with how the game is evolving. You don't back in the day that could have worked when you had 2 big men on the same team. Nowadays the game is more towards shooting. We already know from last season, Rudy Gobert is a liability defensively, especially more protecting towards the 3 line. He can only protect the rim. Everything about that, everything outside the protection of the rim, he's sort of a liability. And which is the same. Again, he's always at the paint. That's where most of his scoring. He's always at the point looking for looking for rebound, which is where Cat is always as well, because he's a big man. So we have 2 big men literally under the under the paint waiting for rebound. So they're practically doing the same job. Both of them massively paid. So again, I really don't, unless again I could be wrong, because I really want to see it play on the field. But yeah, I don't love it, no one bit. Theoretically, I don't like.
DZ, do you notice when Tony gets excited, he leans into the camera and gives you the hands? This is how I know he believes. If anyone's watching this,
Yeah, that body language.
You can see it. You can see the passion. If I ask him a question and he's sitting back, I'm like, he's thinking about it. If he's going like this, he's feeling it.
Absolutely.
I love the response. What I would say to it to counter that would be, their defense was top 10 last year. Now they've just got a 3 or 4-time defensive player of the year on their team. They will be a better regular season team, but playoffs, like you said, Rudy Gobert gets exposed every time at the perimeter, and perimeter defense is what makes or breaks teams in this league. So I completely agree with you on that point. Matt, over to you, my friend. Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Hornets just got a deal for $231 million over 5 years. Love it or hate it? Tell me why.
I love it personally. I know obviously there's, it's obvious that Zion hasn't played a lot of games over the last couple of seasons. He's been out, he's had weight issues, he does look, very overweight. However, with all that being said, when he was playing and when he was active, he was averaging nearly 27 points on 60% shooting. And I think that is just ridiculous.
Kyrie numbers.
Exactly. Also, I think I just found out that they actually added a couple of I think availability incentives and a couple of achievement incentives. So I think he has to make an all NBA team, which might be trickier now for him than it was before, because now that they've added they've got Brandon Ingram now, they've added CJ McCollum. I think the team will now be a bit more balanced than it was before. So maybe, he may not put up as the same level of numbers that he was putting up before when he was an all-star. So no, I really like this. I think it was good for the franchise to lock him down. It's also good as the NBA kind of tries to, balance out this whole LA, New York, large market type thing. They want, the smaller market teams to kind of have star and franchise players. So yeah, I love it.
So you just said he's chubby and he gets injured a lot, but you like the fact that he just got 200 mil because there's incentives to make sure he doesn't get any chubbier and stays healthy. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Essentially, the incentives prevent the possible problems that come with him. So yeah.
Mitigating risk, buyer beware, as we all know and love. Cool. So DZ, you're the resident Knicks fan here, so it's only fair that I ask you about our man Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson got a deal for 104 mil, I believe, over 4 years with the New York Knicks after he was lowballed by the Dallas Mavs. You've been a long-suffering Knicks fan since I've known you. The first week we met, you were telling me about the Knicks, and this was back in 2002. So you guys ain't done nothing since. Now you've just paid 104 mil for a 6'1" light-skinned point guard who's not called JJ. Talk to me. Love it or hate it.
Huh.
And I ain't 6'1", by the way, just to be clear.
I like it. I can grow to love it. I'm looking at it like, what have the Knicks kind of got to lose? And secondly, I think the Knicks, okay, they've gone all out for this kid. They hired his dad as an assistant coach. The GM was his godfather growing up, and there's rumors are that he's going to be getting the GM's house, which is on the Jersey Shore. So they're really going all out. When they hire your dad, and your godfather is the GM in Leon Rose, and they've really gone all out for you. So I don't know. I think with the Knicks, he's better than what we had last year, and probably better than what we had for the last maybe since Stephon Marbury at the point guard position. So I think he's a young guy. I think the hope in New York is that he was playing with Luka last year, so now he's gonna have more of the ball. So maybe he can show us more in terms of his usage rate is gonna go up. His points might go up, his assists might, because Luka's a very ball dominant player, and Luka basically means that everyone's gonna play off the ball because he's got the highest usage rate in the NBA. So I'm hoping that as his rate goes up, his points is gonna go up, his production is gonna go up, his influence in the game is gonna go up, and that he's gonna grow. But New York has got a really, really bright lens, and either you shrink or you grow from it. It's kind of like the sun. It's kind of like Westbrook. When you go to certain places in New York or LA, either you step up or your floors are going to get exposed. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's like there's an expression. It's more of a football expression, but Arsene Wenger's he coaches Arsenal. Used to former Arsenal football coach. He made a comparison about a manager come to the Premier League. And he said, this man thinks that he can drive Roberto Mancini, but now he's going to be driving a Formula One car, a Ferrari. So now we're going to find out if he can really drive. So the same thing with Jalen Brunson. Like, he thinks he can ball, but can you do it in New York? It's a whole nother kettle of fish. And can you now become the main guy on the team? Because Dallas, the Mavericks was definitely Luka's team. And everyone else is just 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E. Now Brunson's got to step up and he has to be that guy. So we'll see. But from a Knicks perspective, we have nothing to lose. I mean, when you're at the bottom, where have you got to go but up? Can't get any worse.
Okay, so if there's any women watching this show, and I hope there is, and a guy ever says to you, I like you and I can learn to love you, you need to leave. That's not the way to start a conversation if he's talking about his emotions. And that's the first thing you said about Jalen Brunson, and that gives me pause for concern. I like it, but I can grow to love it. Scares me, bro. Scares me. And then the next thing you said was about a house. You didn't even mention about the fit on the court, his abilities. You went for the house. So it feels to me like you're talking yourself into this. And I'm saying this from a perspective of the Knicks have been looking for a massive free agent for a long time. And, they got Stoudemire and they got Carmelo Anthony. And you mentioned the mere fact that you had to mention Marbury is, I'm sure Matt's there Googling clips of Marbury just to confirm it's the same guy he's thinking of, because Marbury ain't bored for time. But you sound like you're committed to this, or at least you like it and you could learn to love it, which I guess
I think the Knicks, they went all out for this, because if you look at on draft night, they literally traded away the picks to try and use those in trades to clear more space. So they've gone all out. I mean, Stephen A. Smith went a bit extra, and he said that the Knicks are treating Jalen Brunson like his KD. They're like, we're trading away picks and we're hiring the man's dad, and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, so they've gone all out. But I think.
So why do you tell me why, after you heard Stephen A. say that, tell me why you like that. What do you like about it? What is it you like about it?
I mean, when that happened, I think Stephen A. and Spike Lee got down on both knees and they said a prayer. It's like they were pretty desperate. But I think for me personally, I'm an optimist. And I think he's an upgrade on Kemba Walker, who's basically done. And so now we've got a young guy that has potential to grow. And, who knows what his ceiling might be. I'm not saying he's going to be Steph Curry or any of these other guys, but you never know how good he can get. And if he can form some kind of synergy of RJ Barrett, and then in maybe a year or two, we pick up another young guy, then who knows? But like I said, we haven't won many. I think we've won one series with Carmelo Anthony, 2014, I think. So we went to the finals back in 99. lost to the Spurs, and then since then there's been much
Easy.
success. So
We can't reference any series that happened before Matt was born. That's unfair to him, and it's unfair to the listeners. You need to keep it kosher within the last 20 years at least. But yeah, look, I take on board what you're saying. I appreciate what you. You obviously have hope, which is good. You need that, and as a fan, you need to have that. So, on the subject of hope, Tony, what are you hoping to see as our closing remarks? What are you hoping to see over the next 2 weeks? Whether it's a conclusion to negotiations, a team improving, whatever it is, one thing that you're looking out for in the NBA over the next 2 weeks, and we'll do that around the clock, guys, and we'll probably try and take 30 seconds to a minute. One big thing that you're looking forward to.
I'm just looking forward to all the drama coming to an end. Be it the Lakers drama, be it the KD drama. I want to genuinely look forward to the next season, because currently I can't do that because I don't know where the picks will fall. And again, P.S. I'm also a Knicks fan, so
I saw you smiling when DZ was talking, and you were feeling the pain, but you were thinking the logic, like, this doesn't make any sense, but I understand where his hope is.
Yeah, I understand, but okay, I don't want to go off on a tangent. So literally, what over the next 2 weeks is all the drama settling down, and just looking forward to the next season, because Kyrie, KD, Lakers, there's a bit of chips that haven't fallen down. So I'm just looking for that.
Okay, cool. Say no more. Matt, what are you looking forward to over the next week or two that you're keeping your eye on? When you're plugging into ESPN, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, or wherever you're going, what is it that you're looking out for?
Yep. So I'm a huge fan of the Warriors. I'm really interested to see what they do. I know they've let a lot of the guys that were part of that championship roster go, like such as JTA. They let Gary Payton II go, which I've heard is kind of left a lot of the players a bit disgruntled.
Where's he gone to, Matt? Sorry, where did he go?
He's gone to the Trailblazers.
Oh, they picked him up. That's a nice pickup.
Yeah. A lot of the guys, Steph wasn't too happy that the organization didn't pay him what he wanted. I think they've re-signed Kevon Looney. They're currently negotiating with Jordan Poole as well, said to be looking at around 4 years, 100 million. So I'm interested to see what the Warriors do to kind of, I don't know, strengthen the roster, because I don't know if you guys heard Draymond Green on JJ Redick's podcast. He said that he believes that they are going to win 4 of the next 5 championships. So
KD to the Warriors.
So, I'm really interested to see what they do. But just quickly, I actually completely disagree with DZ on the whole Jalen Brunson thing. I hate it.
Ooh, okay.
Just quickly, I don't think Jalen Brunson is a top 15 point guard in the league. He's 6'1", which is relatively undersized. He's not a great 3-point shooter. Also, I think DZ said that, when you're at the bottom, you can't really go below. But for the Knicks, you actually can, because there's nothing worse than being a team at the bottom with no cap space and kind of no future in sight. So, that's my quick take on the whole Jalen Brunson.
So wait, let me just get this straight. You're waiting for the Warriors. You want to see what's happening there, but you just had to snuck in the fact that DZ's commitment or like of his of Brunson is just not a good look. DZ, obviously you have to respond to that. So talk to me, bro. What are you saying?
So regarding Jalen Brunson, like I said, I think for me personally, like as Knicks fans who've been here before, we've seen people come in and it's not worked out, but the pain ends and the contract will end, and we'll heal and we'll go from there. But I think I'm willing to give the guy a try and see what he does, and just hope for the best, really, in terms of Jalen Brunson. But should I answer the rest of the part as well? My views for the next week or two?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to see what your response to Matt was, because he didn't need to add that, right? He I asked him for one thing and he said the Warriors, and then he threw that one out there and laughed when he said it. So I knew he was coming for you. So I had to give you the opportunity to respond. And it sounds to me like, you're walking down the street with a missus, a guy said something and you're like, yeah, but she's cool for now. the contract might end. We'll see how it goes. It doesn't feel like you really believe in it, but yeah, you could talk about what you're looking forward to the next week. Maybe it could be a rescinding of the contract. Who knows? Talk to me.
There's an expression. I don't know if I'm going to get it directly correct, but from some Gladiator, and Russell Crowe's talking to his soldiers, his troops, and he cracks a joke. So listen, if you roll over and you see your colleague next to you and he's laughing, that means that you're already dead. So you got nothing to lose. And as Knicks fans, we've been dead for a while. So there's no expectation with us. So whatever happens is just like it's a bonus. We become fans of the entire NBA. So but yeah, my thoughts for the next few weeks. I want to see personally. I'm hoping that Kyrie and KD have to run it back in Brooklyn because I want to watch them fail again. I want to see it all with Ben Simmons. I want to see it all happen. And I want to see Russell Westbrook in LA because I want to see the Lakers fail again. And I want to see that movie get played out again because for me, I really enjoyed watching the Lakers last season. So ideally, I'm hoping KD and Kyrie are forced to stay in Brooklyn. And also, on a serious note, I think if KD's allowed to leave the Nets, I think it's a bad look for the NBA because he just signed a new deal last year that he didn't have to sign. If you look at, for example, LeBron played out his contract. Harden had 1 year left. Kawhi had 1 year left. KD's got 4 years in his deal that literally starts this summer. And if you can just opt out after signing that, then it's the point of contracts, right? Anyway,
So both Tony and DZ are looking forward to the dust settling, but DZ's looking forward to the dust settling because he wants to see carnage. That's what it sounds like to me. And because he's got no hope for the Knicks, he's hoping for other people to lose hope with their teams. Guys, look, it's been a pleasure. It's been the longest one we've done, but it's definitely been a lot of fun having this conversation with you guys. I appreciate the fact that we're comfortable enough to go at each other's opinions, even if we're comparing John Wall to Kyrie. Tony, I ain't letting that go, man. I'm not letting that go. But anyway, the point is, Matt, DZ, Tony, I appreciate your time, effort, ingenuity, and your insights. I'm your host, JJ. I was joined by Matt, DZ, Tony. This is the RBN Network. Shout out Olu for setting this all up and the RBN Network for making this all possible. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Take care, guys.